Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It's a Wednesday. It's another day to talk about your Longhorns. I got some good topics of conversation as relates to at least a change that put out there on social media the other day or yesterday, and figured we could have a conversation about it today. Some changes that are going on as relates to the wide receiver room as we kind of hit the end of portal season here, guys, and I just want to start off by just bringing just a little clarity for some of the. I think most of you guys understand it, but let me just tweet this out now. But I've seen things online, and I think people gotta get a little confused because they see people still entering the portal, and they're asking themselves, "How the hell are people still entering the portal?" Okay, listen. For those when you see people online, people questioning you or anything like that, this is what it is. Friday at midnight was the deadline for players to announce their intention to go into the portal. Okay, just to inform your school, I am entering the transfer portal. From that point, the school has 2 business days to enter your name officially in the portal. So if you did it at Friday at 11:59, okay, well, you got Saturday, don't count. Sunday doesn't count. Monday was a holiday. Business days doesn't count, right? So now we're on to Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's why you're still seeing guys showing up in the portal like yesterday and today. And people are like, why the hell? Because of the 2 business day thing. So, and I just didn't have enough time to correct everybody who was getting it wrong. So today, will be the last day we really get to see of what's available for the non-playoff teams. Now, playoffs, those teams, they had they have 5 days from when the season ends. So on Monday. So, so again, and I believe that's 5 business days. So they have until this week, and then probably I guess the early part of next week. So that's why we have some time to see like what's going on there. But I think for the most part, we'll know over the next couple of days if Texas is going to make any more additions at that point, or if they're just going to say to themselves, we're good going forward. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor the offensive line conversations and see if anything new happens with that. But that's where we are. Just kind of housekeeping issue. And good morning to everybody who's out there, to my Rodolfo, who got blocked. I still don't understand how Rodolfo got blocked. I think it was Chad Hastings, by the way, Rodolfo, who blocked you, because he mentioned something about maybe hitting the wrong button. So I believe it was Chad. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I ain't snitching. I'm just informing. Good morning to everybody else. Tex Blotters in here. Ruben's in here. DC's in here. Michelle, all of you peeps are in here. Sandman, Michelle, y'all supposed to connect in 2025. We're supposed to make this happen. I'll stay out of grown folks' business. All right. And everybody else who's in there in the chat that I may have missed. So listen, now that I got the housekeeping thing taken care of, let's talk about what a conversation I really want to have a conversation with you guys about, and that's Emmett Mosley the fifth. Props to anybody who keeps the generational names going, right? The fourth and the fifth and all those kind of folks, man. Like, I never been my thing, but hey, some families do that, and hey, to y'all who like to do that, cool. So Emmett Mosley the fifth, not to be confused with the fourth. Well, I'm gonna see Emmett Mosley's family one day. They'll be like, man. Anyway, the main thing I want you guys to know is that Emmett Mosley is going to be moving to the slot position, and essentially, this is going to potentially unlock 3 weapons at once, receiver weapons at once for Sark. I haven't even gotten to what the running back weapons look like for Sark, or the tight end weapons, or anything like that. But we're going to have an Emmett Mosley conversation today. And look, I know it's January. We got a long ways to go, y'all. It is a long ways. Pack a lunch. We're going to be here for a while. It's only January. I know Chris Bennett asking me about, or Rodolfo asking me about Super Bowl, and we got to get past Super Bowls and we got to get through spring balls and I got to go to Destin, for the spring meetings, and then we've got the fall. So we got a long ways to go. Okay, so just know what the conversation we have on January 1st may not be the conversation we're having on March 21st or April 21st or anything like that, but we're just going to have a real time conversation to that kind of get into what's going on behind the scenes as relates to what's this receiver rotation going to look like. And it really gets started, y'all, from Cam Coleman, because in a positive way, by the way, positive. This is all positive. By the way, this is the offseason is the most positive that will ever be. Like there's nothing more positive than the offseason. Like, so that's how positive this is. It's gonna be a positive conversation. It all starts with Cam Coleman. Because when Cam Coleman decides that he's going to sign with Texas, that now creates this plethora. Y'all saw the Three Amigos, this plethora of riches for the wide receiver position. Because now all of a sudden you got Ryan Wingo, and of course now you got Cam Coleman. You got your two outside receivers. And that alone is just badass. Can we just kill this? That alone is badass. And we can lock those guys in as starters, right? Going into week one, everybody stays healthy, all that, right? That alone should get you out of bed and have you super excited about what this room is going to look like. And then the question really became, all right, you got those guys. So what do you do with Emmett Mosley? Right? It's kind of a natural question. And and look, I had to ask some people about it. I think we had some natural deductions, right? I don't think necessarily that we're breaking new ground on something that is so crazy about our thought process. But I think our thought process was like, okay, well, where does Emmett Mosley kind of fit in here? And is he a guy that just basically becomes a backup? Is he the first guy behind Cam Coleman, first guy behind Ryan Wingo, right? Like that was kind of like, okay, could you rock like that, right? Theoretically, because you have a Dalen McCutcheon. And you could say to yourself, okay, well, you got Dalen McCutcheon, who goes by the nickname of Day Day. I don't call these young folks by their nickname because I ain't their friends, but some of y'all like to do that. So y'all like to do that, Day Day. I'm grown. I like Cedric the Entertainer. I ain't calling no grown man delicious. I don't call. I never called. I never went to Mookie. I did Day Day. All these C4s. I'm too grown for all that. We ain't boys. I'm old enough to be your daddy. You call me something. You call me sir or unk. I'll accept that. So the question just became, okay, so what happens there? And I think it was a good question too, because I think many people, you may not have known this last year, and I don't know how often I said this on the show last year, and I don't remember saying this a ton, because I thought this was kind of a thing that I alluded to it, but the main thing is that when they signed Emmett Mosley, what they really wanted him to be was the starting wide receiver opposite Ryan Wingo. That part is true. They thought Emmett gave them way more upside. They thought Emmett would be a really potent 1-2 combination for Arch. And that was the main reason it was for him to start and for Livingston to come off the bench as the number 2 guy. That I if I'm lying, I'm dying. Now, what had happened was Emmett Mosley had some injuries, and mainly a hamstring injury that really prevents him from taking that role that the staff was hoping that he would take behind the scenes, right? That was their thought process. He would be the better Um, he'll be the. I'm looking at Green Lantern, my dude. He would be the better option. Green Lantern's alive. He would be the better option at the receiver position, but Mosley gets hurt, and so what we saw towards the end of last season, when Mosley started getting healthy, then Mosley started getting more of those reps towards the end of last year. And then all of a sudden you say to yourself, oh snap, okay, this guy's kind of legit. Like this guy's kind of good. Like you didn't walk out of there saying to yourself, oh man, like Emmett Mosley is a future first round pick. You didn't say that, right? But you start saying to yourself, okay, I can see it. And you start seeing him making some plays. You said, oh, okay. You know, it started to click for you, right? Well, DeAndre Moore decides that he's going to leave, goes to Colorado, which is an interesting thing because DeAndre Moore he was actually going to, I think that I may have done a show, or may have said it on the show, but he originally had said something about potentially going to the NFL. I guess he must have got his draft grade. They told him like, no, don't worry about that. So he decides that he wants to leave. It's an interesting move because he basically felt like he maxed out in the system. He felt like there's only so many targets that he can get here at UT. So the thought process was, all right, I'm good. I want more. Which, look, Rodolfo will tell you. Because one of Rodolfo's favorite players is Jordan Whittington. And Jordan Whittington in the slot, he got drafted, right? So there's nothing wrong with him playing in there, but I get it, right? So if y'all don't know, it's an inside joke for some of us in here because Rodolfo is a big hater of Jordan Whittington. We're all convinced that Jordan Whittington took Rodolfo's girl at some point. That's just we can't confirm it, but we just kind of feel like that's the root of the hate. So anyway, when you see Rodolfo start talking about Jay Witt, that's why. That's why. Again, look, nicknames. I just did that on purpose to show y'all Jordan Whittington. So anyway, so they started thinking, okay, well, when they got Cam, well, what are we gonna do with Emmett? And it was an instant, like, got it. We're gonna put him in the slot. And now you're looking at on paper, Ryan Wingo, Cam Coleman, and then Emmett Mosley as your three receivers. Those guys are the outside, Emmett Mosley in the slot. And that to you should be like, ooh, wee, okay? And Emmett, from what I was told, he played a little bit of slot when he was in Stanford. I don't think that was the primary thing, but that they say he can play that position. They say he can play that role. They say he's willing to play that role, on this team. And he's not a small guy. He's not a small guy by any stretch of the imagination. When I went back and I started looking at some of those Stanford highlights, you should do that. You should do that because it's actually more impressive when I look back at it. And I said, Green Lantern, look back at it. No. Anyway, it's more impressive when I look back at the highlights because I realized, like, oh snap, like this guy's really, really, really talented. And again, we didn't get the chance to see all of that, and we only got a chance to see it towards the end of the season. But I can see why everybody was super hype and super excited about it. Now, I think there's a Dalen McCutcheon conversation that we have to have in here, right? There's Dalen McCutcheon, right? And what logically happens for Dalen is and I always want to say Dylon, right? Because he stood spit fire. But Dalen, who's the greatest slot receivers out there, Dalen, because I spit straight fire. Anyway, what that probably puts him on paper going into the season as the number 2 guy. The guy who, gets a chance to get into the rotation, play a little bit. but having a little bit more of an experienced guy in front of him before he has the opportunity to compete for the job, next season, right? And look, he'll compete. He'll go out there. He's really good. The thing about Dalen McCutcheon is Dalen can play multiple positions. He's extremely talented. He can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. He actually, of all the receivers that they signed in the 2025 class, he was the one who was most ready to play in 2025. Now, I know what's going to happen. My man Top's going to come in, and Top's going to say, margin hooks. I already know. But he of all of them, all those guys who came in, your French, Lockett's, Michael Terry, he was the guy that was most ready to play receiver. We know that because Michael Terry gets switched to running back. We know that you've got, French transfers out, and you just waiting to see what happens with Lockett and how that goes, right? And so there'll be an eventual depth chart. We'll get to. We're so far away from depth charts at this moment. It's all in our minds. But now that gives, the one thing that Sark and them really learned is it was interesting because 2 seasons ago, they really wanted to say, hey, we need to get experience out there at receiver. That was a thing, right? And so they go out and they get guys who give them experience at receiver. They'll go out and get 3 guys, and they get all the experience that they want. And then this past year, they said to themselves, okay, it's time to let the young guys cook. Let's see what these guys have. And it ends up being a learning lesson because sometimes you can put the young people in the kitchen and they ain't ready to make the meal. It don't mean they can't eventually. Doesn't mean that they won't. But what we realize in real time is that just because you was that dude coming out of high school doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate, especially in the Steve Sarkisian offense. And we saw that it took Ryan Wingo a while to really start getting comfortable. Parker had maybe a couple of games. Emmett came on stronger in the end. And Parker's game was only like 2 games. And it took a while, really, for all that. Again, really, when we get to like Mississippi State or so, that's when the offense really starts clicking and getting a little bit better, at least from the arch perspective, and just really connecting with the receivers. You start seeing it a little bit more, right? So so this thing now, as they go into this year, Sark, I think, finally gets back to what he feels comfortable with, which is having people with playing experience out there at the receiver position, and then trying to get the young people integrated in. Now, I know it's tough. It's tough as a young receiver. It's also tough as a young player. I always equate it it's like trying to get credit, right? And when you're young and you try to get credit, they say to you, you get denied because they say you don't have any credit. And then you tell them, okay, well, the only way for me to get credit is for you to give me credit. And they're like, yeah, we would love to give you credit, but you ain't got credit. And you're like, yeah, but it's a back and forth. And that's how it is for like when the young people in playing time. They're like, well, you don't really have any PT. You don't have any playing time. They're like, yeah, well, if you give me playing time, I can get playing time. They're like, yeah, but you don't have no playing time, right? It's that back and forth thing, right? So I get it. But nowadays, in this transfer portal era, in this win now, it's always win now. But in the era where you just can't afford to say, we're just going to wait 3 years for a guy to develop, like that, those days of patience are over. It's over. That thing is like Jason Sukamel coming here on a Tuesday and talking about all the stuff that happened in the past. And I'm like, Jason, it is 2026, brother. Like, you put your iPod shuffle down and get with 2026. Jason's still like, ooh, look at my music that I got on here. You're like, bro. Jason with the Walkman, Sony Walkman, walking around. You're like, yo, we in 2026. In 2026, we don't have time to let guys develop, right? You don't have time for that because your guys are getting paid. It's got to be an ROI, right? And you got to win now. And you can't have other teams signing guys and you just sitting here saying, well, in 3 years, we'll see what that. No, you ain't got time for that. They just ain't got time for that. That ain't what it is. I ain't got no time for that. We ain't got time for that, right? So, I think Sark's getting back to, I won't say his roots. I think it was only took a 1-year hiatus. And the thing I give Sark credit, the thing I'll give Sark credit about, and I always try to give him credit for where I think credit is due. Sark, sometimes stubborn, but when Sark realizes, you know what, it's time to make a change, he'll make a change now. He will make a change. Trust me. You're not the only one monitoring this whole offensive line situation in the offseason. You ain't the only one. He is too. What up, Calvin? Calvin got a job. You have only Green Lantern might know what I'm talking about, but Calvin got a job. What? Calvin got a job? Yeah, Calvin got a job. You have no clue. That is such a only Green Lantern. Maybe Text Block might get that reference. I don't know if anybody else will. So, some of my older folks, old school folks, might do it. I say older, and we go out more than the young people do. So you know what I'm saying? Like we're the ones who out in them streets, and the young people at home playing on their phones and doing sleepovers, and we the ones that are out here in them streets all the time. Ain't it funny like that? Anyway, that's a sidebar. All the parents know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Any case, so just know that Sark is paying attention. Sark's paying attention, and I think Sark will make changes if need be. I feel that. I feel that really strongly as relates to him. And look, I want to show y'all something. I want to show you something. I thought this was really interesting. I was looking this stuff up, and I started thinking about the position switch and how that can help. Y'all know I'm going to show you one of my favorite websites. Y'all know I love this website. If you don't know, now you know. You knew very well who you are. Okay, hold on. I try to maximize this. All right, let me take y'all down for a second. All right, let me also make this one. Damn, let me see if that makes it better on the screen. Okay, perfect. All right, let's do this. So I went. Listen, I love this website. This is my go-to website as far as stats and stuff is concerned. If you ever are just like, hey, I just want to go through stuff like this thing here. Let me just show you. I'm going to show you. If I just go, I'm in conferences, right? But let's just say I go to the Southeastern Conference. It comes up with everything, right? I just all these different numbers. You don't have to pay for anything like that. So I wanted to go to the passing offense, and I wanted to show you, as I'm thinking about Mosley and what that can mean for this Texas offense. It's good. Look, when they say men lie, women lie, the numbers don't. Okay, and that's Jay-Z. Texas. Right here. This is where that passing offense was ranked in the SEC last year. It was 7th. So we're talking from a passing offense standpoint, kind of middle of the pack, right? Averaging about 250 passing yards. You can see where Ole Miss was. You can see where Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Look, and that doesn't necessarily mean that always equates to success. Okay. And there's many components that go into a passing offense, like the offensive line, right? So this is not an arch conversation. The running backs, right? I mean, there's more to it than we know football, that it's not as just cut and dry, simple as that may be, right? But we do know that this offense was ranked 7th. And what's interesting, when you go back to 2024, it was actually ranked 4th in the SEC. So realistically, from a passing offensive perspective, Texas took a step back last year. Not a huge step back. Now we ain't talking about back of the pack. We ain't talking about where Oklahoma was in 2024. I mean, for Oklahoma's credit, at least they went from horrible to okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's at. So then when you start thinking about Mosley in the slot and Cam Coleman as well, and then Ryan Wingo's development, I think all of a sudden you start telling yourself, okay, this thing could look a lot better from just an attacking website. That is CFBstats.com. I will hold on for you guys. If you guys are interested, I'm going to put this in the chat right here. I'll put it for you. I love it. I absolutely love it. And for those of you guys who I know it's really popular, when you guys like to put out like stats and edits and all these kind of things. If you're looking for something, and someone put something in there that there's an Indiana. I'm looking at my team's channel. Looks like there's some Indiana offensive lineman that has entered the transfer portal. Evan Lawrence has entered the transfer portal. Y'all can do the research on this person. May not be the person that we were talking about or looking at, but I'm gonna put that in the chat. Y'all can do the research. I know we're looking for anything right here. If y'all see this, let me know. Let's. We at the point. Anybody that goes in, we like, what? Offensive line, man. We sure need that down here. We jonesing for that, man. We like Pookie in New Jack City. This keeps calling me, man. It just keeps calling me. We need some offensive linemen down here. I don't know if the man can play or not, but nonetheless, hopefully there is something that's out there. So look, now we're talking about, again, we got Wingo on the outside. You got Coleman on the outside. You got Mosley on the inside. And now we're talking about an offense that Steve Sarkisian can use. That before we even get to a Relique Brown or before we even get to a Hollywood Smothers, we're now talking about an offense that can now put stress on a defense where you really have to decide as a defense, what's our focal point here? And look, you may not be able to have one. You might have to go, some sort of zone, cloud coverage, something like that, just so you don't get beat over the top. And you talk now, and then again, just imagine a check down if those three guys are occupied. I don't know what one guy just decided like he's going to stop for lunch, and because they're that damn good, right? And if you do a check down to Smothers or Brown, now you talk about for Sark. This is an amazing thing. And I got to be honest with you, none of this is possible, I think, without Ryan Wingo and the leadership that he has shown throughout the offseason. One, you give Wingo credit because, look, let's just keep it a buck. If Wingo wanted to shop himself around, Wingo could have shopped himself around after the season. There would have been enough people saying, we'll definitely pay that dude. And I'm not saying Wingo didn't get hooked up at Texas, but what I'm saying is we see guys who are like, yo, bidding war, let it be, right? Who knows, right? And so you see guys who do that, and he didn't do that. Plays in the bowl game. And the thing that will forever impress me about Ryan Wingo is the thing I put out there. I think it was like last week or the week before. I think it was last week, where Wingo ends up being the lead recruiter for Cam Coleman. He ends up being the guy that they connect while they're here on campus. And he's the guy who's texting Cam, talking to him every single day, letting him know, man, we sure want you here. And that thing that I was saying, like, I think part of my tweet, I don't remember specifically what I said, but it would have been very easy for like Wingo to protect his turf and just say like, yo, I'm the dude here. Like, I'm the man. Like, if anybody is going to make the money on this team, it's got to be me. I ain't going to have nobody come in off the street, make more money than me. What? This is my team. This is my locker room. This is my time to shine. Like, he could have done all that. You said, you know what, Parker isn't here. We'll just got, give me the rock. And the fact that he was able as a young person to think big picture, what's best for the team. And having that guy is going to make our team better. Just that mentality, one, shows he had very good parents who really instilled a lot of good fundamental principles in him. He also had some good coaching along the way as well, right? And so it's a real good reflection of who he is. And then by him bringing in Cam and recruiting Cam, now that helps Mosley bump inside. And now all of a sudden, instead of it just being the Ryan Wingo show and to look at me, now it's like, man, everybody's going to eat. Everybody can cook now at the center. And then all the young people can grow and develop as well, right? So, I love how Texas was able to kind of stack this room, improve this room, um, and really set up what could potentially be, like I said, a really strong, potent offense, and really full of a lot of unselfish guys who were seemingly willing to play their role, going into another year of Arch Manning. Yeah, when you talk about culture, that speaks of it, and that speaks not only of culture but speaks of the individual as well. Because you got to have the individuals that buy in. So, props to him. Props to Mosley for being willing to take the switch, and props to Cam for saying like, "Hey, man, I'm willing to come in here and play my role." And props to everybody else for adjusting to it as well. And it's going to make the team better. It's going to make the individuals better. And sometimes people get caught up in the numbers, and that they think numbers is how you get drafted. It helps a little, but it's not the overall tell. It's the little things like this, right? So. Nonetheless, there we are. That's the Emmett Mosley story. We're gonna have much more on Mosley. Had much more things going on in Orange Bloods. A lot of things going on behind the scenes, just trying to flush it all out. But that's it for now. So I think I told y'all yesterday I got a sick kid here. So let me get back to my kid. Flu. Thank God I got enough vodka in my system. I got so much vodka in my system, and I don't think that flu can ever touch me. Yeah, that is the ultimate in making sure that's the ultimate antibody is the vodka that's in my system. So listen, y'all take care. Go out, have a fantastic day. Remember, I always say live each day like it's your last one day it will be. So go out, have a great day, do something nice for yourself, something special for yourself, because you absolutely 100% deserve it. All right. And I'll be back tomorrow with more